everyone, it's Nick. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Okay, in today's video, we are going to be talking about how to make your home feel cozy. So we are fast approaching, I was gonna say approaching September. No, it is September, you guys, which means I am in the sweater. Fall is fast approaching here in Vancouver. Pumpkin spice lattes are out by the bucketful over there at the Starbucks. So, you know, it's time to talk coziness, and that's what we're gonna do today. So I think it's really important to mention that I think that coziness is like a multi-sensory experience, right? In interior design, we oftentimes really talk about how things look, but I think when we're talking about coziness, that sort of is only a piece of the puzzle. We also have to talk about the other senses. So we're gonna be talking about touch, we're gonna be talking about smell, we're gonna be talking about sound, and even we're gonna be talking about taste. Now that's a little bit of a stretch, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna make it work in this video. So we're gonna be talking about the 5 senses and how they apply to coziness, and I'm gonna summarize throughout the video my tips so that you can have a cozy, beautiful, warm, comfortable space in no time. Well, maybe sometime, but you know. Okay, but before I get to those cozy home tips, I wanna talk about today's video sponsor, which is Wayfair. Now, we all know Wayfair, they've got something for everybody on there, right? Like no matter what your design style, no matter what your tastes are, there is something for everybody over on Wayfair. We all know that, but they also have a really great YouTube channel, and that's what I wanna talk about today, because they actually have a new series called Small Stuff, which centers on a YouTuber and TikToker named LaGuardia and his 2 precocious children who are 5 and 7. So this is sort of chronicling the process of LaGuardia and his 2 children and his wife putting together this kid's bedroom with bunk beds and sort of making like real world design decisions that people actually do, and really letting the kids have the opportunity to design their own space, which is really interesting because you get to see what the little kids sort of pick out. There's also lots of really interesting content coming down the road from LaGuardia and his beautiful family. So feel free to head on over to the Wayfair YouTube channel and subscribe and like and do all those wonderful things there. Go check out the full video, you know, comment, let them know that Nick sent you. But first, before you do that, stay here and watch my tips on how you can create a cozy home for yourself this fall. Okay, so first, let's talk about sight, right? So let's talk about how you can make your place look really cozy. And I would say there's a couple of things that really come to mind, but first, let's really talk about lighting, because that is so crucial when we're talking about coziness. So really, we're talking about brightness here, and we're also gonna talk about color temperature. So brightness, I would say my biggest tip here is to really focus on dimmers and being able to adjust the lighting in order to get the adequate amount of light that you need to create the mood that you're looking for. So what oftentimes happens is that when you just have a light switch and you don't have things on a dimmer or any sort of like app controlled sort of way of adjusting your lighting, is that max brightness is not always particularly cozy. So there is a time and a place for that, right? Maybe some task lighting, whatever, you really need to have access to a lot of light and you want it really bright, and that can be okay. But if you're trying to make a space feel really cozy, being able to dial down that brightness is really gonna go a long way to make a place feel really comfortable, because intense light oftentimes is really overwhelming and sort of mimics direct sunlight, which is wonderful and great for tasks, but not always particularly good to create sort of a warm, comfortable, inviting space that you wanna relax in at the end of a long day. So having things on dimmers, turning them down to like, you know, mid-level brightness so that you can still do what you need to do in your own home and you can still accomplish different tasks like cooking dinner or whatever, but you're creating a mood that feels very closed in and almost like kind of cave light by turning down that brightness. The next thing is color temperature. So color temperature is not in reference to the brightness, right? What we're talking about here is the difference between sort of cool or really bright white light and sort of warmer, more golden light that you might see that more mimics that of a sunset. So I would say for warmer light, we're gonna be looking at sort of the 2000 to 3000 Kelvin. You can check my video that I did on lighting design mistakes, because this is all over there and you can get a whole video just on this subject. But really, I think that warm lighting is a really great way to create that warmer, comfortable, inviting space, especially when you're kind of moving into those evenings. So dialing down that brightness and also creating something a little bit more warmer is really going to go a long way, especially mimicking that sort of evening light that you're gonna want in a cozy space in those kind of evenings. So that, I would say, will go a long way towards creating a more cozy space. The next thing with lighting that we need to talk about is about layer your lighting, something that I also talk about on this channel a bunch because it's really important, especially when creating something that's really cozy. That one boob light that's in the center of the room that you probably still have because you didn't take my advice in the last 2 videos that I mentioned this. Sorry, but the boob light, it just gets me every time. Okay, so if you still have the boob light, you know, swap that out for something better. Spoiler, like that's like first thing you need to do. Second thing, layer that lighting, right? We're needing some accent lighting, maybe some lighting over top of your art. We're putting task lighting in. We're doing different types of ambient lighting, maybe LED lighting strips that are under cabinets in the kitchen or under a bathroom vanity, or maybe they're up above but hidden behind a valance that you can't really see them. All those ways, kind of that subtle glow that you can get from those LED lighting strips goes a long way to creating a really cozy, intimate space. So definitely layer that lighting, lots of different places, have a comprehensive lighting plan and not just that stupid one light in the center of the room that I've told you not to put in. Of course, with site, I will also mention here that the look of a fireplace or any sort of fire element is obviously also going to make a space feel super cozy. So you see this in like Scandinavian design a lot, where, you know, they use a lot of fireplaces sort of as a focal point in the center of the living room, or even candles is another really great way that is of course going to make a space feel really cozy. Okay, moving away from lighting, but still on the subject of site, I want to talk about color. So a big part of color theory is also understanding not just what colors necessarily go together or which colors that you like, but also understanding that color goes a long way to affecting our mood. So cooler toned colors, so we're talking like the blues, maybe even those kind of silvery grays, greens, purples, those colors, it can create something that's really moody, it can create something that's really sophisticated, and those are really beautiful colors. But warmer colors, so this not only includes the colors themselves, of course, but also those heavily tinted colors, so things that are closer to more of a neutral, but just sort of have maybe some warmer undertones. So these colors will have yellow, orange, and red undertones in them. So even white can lean warm or cool, right? Depending on the undertones of the color white. So whites and blacks and grays and tans and things like that, those can all have undertones of either cool or warmer colors. So these like beiges and creams and ivory and maybe things with like the wood tones that have like an orangey or even a red undertone, those colors are going to feel warmer and they're going to create more of a space that feels really comfortable and really cozy. So as opposed to sort of moody and sophisticated in those cooler tones, definitely having some of those warmer tones creates a space, I think, that feels a little bit more comfortable than what you're gonna get with those cooler tones. Now, if you love blue and you love green and you love those colors, that's awesome. First of all, there are some ways you can make green, you know, a little bit on the warmer side by having more of a kind of yellowy undertone. That's kind of one way that you can do it, is sort of warming up some of those colors that are on the cooler side. But you can also balance them out, right? You don't necessarily have to just choose warm or cool. You can see in my space behind me, I have a lot of navy and a lot of orange, which are kind of more complementary colors anyway. So you can still balance that space, but really bringing in some of those warmer colors will help you create a more cozy vibe. Another thing with color too is that if you really want to use those cooler colors or even warmer colors as well, is also consider going darker. So what darker colors tend to do is they sort of bring the room in. Now, some people are scared, right? They say, well, I want this big open and airy space and whatever, and that's fine. But it's not always particularly cozy. So if we're talking coziness here, darker colors tend to sort of bring the space in together, make it a little bit more cave-like, which for humans, you know, since the dawn of time has always been sort of a really kind of comfortable and safe place to be. Because by bringing those walls in, you are making the space sort of feel a little bit smaller, not in a bad way, because again, people are scared of this. They tend to see darker colors and they're like, well, I don't want my space to feel really small, so I'm scared of darker colors. But, you know, even if you're going on the cooler toned colors, by having them a little bit darker, you are bringing the space in, and that does create a space that feels really intimate and really cozy. And you get that with darker colors. Warmer colors open your space up, which again is what a lot of people think they want, but sometimes it can make a space feel really hollow and really open. And sometimes as humans, I think that sort of can feel a little overwhelming and overexposing, if that's a thing, you know what I'm talking about? But going darker really draws those walls in and just makes the place feel just, you know, really cozy. So consider that another option as well. Okay, the next sense that I want to talk about is sound. So sound is so important when it comes to making a space feel cozy, and it's very much often overlooked. Do you ever find like when you move out of a place, not only does it like feel way bigger than it was when you like had all your stuff in there, but you walk in and your voice bounces off of all the surfaces, off the floor, ceiling, walls, whatever, and it feels really hollow in there, right? And sometimes you're like, why did it not sound like that before? Well, it's very simply because of absorption, sound absorption. So things like rugs and your furniture, all your soft finishes and all of your stuff and the furniture that you have in the room is going to dampen the sound, and the sound waves are therefore not going to bounce off of the different hard surfaces of the walls and the floor, bouncing back at you, creating that sort of hollow sort of echo effect that you can get when you have an open space that doesn't have any furniture in it. So the very simple answer here is to fill your space. So big empty spaces that have a lot less furniture than they might need, where sort of they don't have the adequate space planning and they have lots of different open areas where there's no furniture, no rugs, no anything, those will oftentimes not have the same sound absorption that you would get if you have a space with adequate space planning and the right amount of furniture that is right sized for the room. So if you really want to create a space that feels super cozy, loading it up on furniture, not too much furniture, we're not talking clutter here, but making sure you have the right amount of furniture that is going to absorb sound. Things like drapery panels, things like rugs, these are going to go a long way towards absorbing that sound to make the space feel more intimate and cozy. Okay, so now let's talk about the next sense, which is going to be smell. So you might be thinking, like, how does a place smell cozy? Well, you've got some options here. First thing I'm just gonna say is, like, clean your place, obviously, right? Like if you haven't taken out the trash in like a week, then that's not gonna make your space feel any cozier. So definitely cleaning, dusting, taking out any leftovers in the fridge, you know, things like that is gonna go a long way towards making your space, no, you don't feel cozy, but it's the blank slate that we need to start at before we start adding in cozy elements. Also, if you're using something like a scented candle or even a diffuser, it's gonna go a long way as well. Now, first of all, I'm going to mention a lot of you I know are really sensitive to scent. So obviously you want to be really careful, especially if you have guests coming over. Oftentimes a really good idea to be very considerate of your guests because some people are really sensitive to scents. But if you like adding a scent to your home, then a scented candle can go a long way. Now, but here's the thing. We're not talking about some sort of really fake Bath and Body Works. I love Bath and Body Works, it's great. But like sometimes there can be like birthday cake scented candles that I love birthday cake, you love birthday cake, don't know if we want to smell it in the home. I think sometimes the really fake stuff is maybe not the way to go. Steer you more towards vanilla, now we're cooking, right? That sounds like a much better idea and a much better way to make a space feel naturally really cozy. Now, I myself prefer in the fall especially to use scents that are really woodsy. So my two favorites right now that I'm really loving is like this sandalwood here, this candle. I just love this one. It's so good. And again, all the scents in here, they're all like natural essential oils, so like actual essential oils, so they really smell beautiful and not fake and gross. And then I also really love this one. This is Vitruvi. Shout out to Vitruvi. They're like a Vancouver-based brand that I love. And this one is Grove, which has cedarwood in it, which I also really, really like. So I tend to, I love that one. I tend to really gravitate towards the really woodsy scents, but you can do whatever you want. They've got essential oils, you know, you can get grapefruit, you can get lemon, you can get all sorts of different ones. There's so many cool ones that are out there. The point is that if you're going to introduce a scent into your home, it can really go a long way towards creating a really cozy vibe. Again, the woodsy ones, I think do a really good job of doing this, but obviously, you know, do whatever you feel comfortable with that's really gonna make sense for your home. But I think we can avoid a lot of the like, you know, pumpkin spice, you know, pecan blast or whatever they've got going on from a Yankee Candle. Just my 2 cents. Let's stick to natural things or none at all if, of course, you're sensitive. But if you are like me and you like to introduce a scent, go for au naturel, I think. Okay, the next sense that I want to talk about is going to be touch. And specifically here, I want to talk about texture because this one I think really ties a lot of these different categories together, not only sight, but also sound. Because when we're talking about texture, I think there are some fabulous textures that you can use that are going to make your space feel really cozy. So not only does texture give a room visual interest, but what it also does is it really creates kind of a strong sense of depth, and it really creates sort of something really sort of tactile to the space, which I think is really beautiful and really makes things feel really cozy. You don't want it to feel really busy or messy, but something that feels really balanced. And I think there's some really great ways that you can do that. Some of the more obvious ones would be things like using a rug, using drapery panels, like I mentioned, you know, different books and things that sort of make you feel like, you know, you're just gonna like pick up a book book on like a rainy day in the fall, right? So adding books to a space I think can be a really cool way of adding a little bit of visual interest to a space, but also create a little bit something that feels a little bit more cozy. Things like throws and pillows, I mean, really adding sort of different layers of materials into your space. Again, you've got that visual interest. You're also going to be dampening the sound because there's all these different sort of cozy textures that are going to absorb sound in your space, creating something that feels more of like that cave-like feel. So it really has a way of making the space sort of feel really cozy. So I think some materials you could look at would be things like wool, cotton, fur, or faux fur if you don't want to do the whole fur thing, which I totally get. Materials like linen, leather, or vegan leather. Wood is also a really great way to add coziness to a space. And even carpet, if you like carpet. I think it was an unpopular design opinion of mine recently that I actually quite like carpet in the bedroom. I think, again, it really absorbs that sound in a way that hardwood is just absolutely not going to do, but I do think that a rug can be a good substitute. But rugs, carpets, all that stuff, really fantastic. Materials that I would avoid here would be things like plastic, like really hard, dense materials where sound just bounce off of it and there is no kind of sort of textural element coming through. So iron, concrete doesn't feel very cozy. And even things like porcelain ceramic tiles. Like I love porcelain and ceramic in like lots of different areas of the home, but it is definitely a material that, especially in like a living room or a bedroom, it's not going to make your space feel really cozy. So I am a big fan of engineered hardwood floors or hardwood flooring. I just love the look of hardwood flooring because I think it is really warm and comfortable, especially with a rug, because again, you're getting that textural and cozy sort of piece there. But porcelain tiles in a living area, if you have it, that's great. I mean, it is what it is. I would say using rugs is a really great way to warm it up. And there's a reason for that, because I just find they're not really warm and comfortable. They're always going to create a really sort of flat, uninteresting surface to a room. And that on its own is never going to feel really cozy, hence the necessity for those rugs. Okay, next up is going to be taste, the fifth sense that I think is worth talking about in terms of the context of how to make your home look cozy. Okay, so this one's a bit of a stretch, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it needed to fit in my little category. Taste does make sense when you actually think about it, because although you can't, taste your interior necessarily and taste coziness, what I would say is really important is proper space planning. If you are eating or drinking in a space, which is a lot of what we're doing in our homes, at least I am. I feel like I'm eating or drinking pretty much 90% of the time that I'm here. So having a proper space plan so that you have adequate areas for people to put down food and drink is very, very important. So yes, living room and side chairs, we all love those, but what I personally can't stand is when these coffee tables or ottomans are not made for people to put a glass down or put food down. I just think your home is meant to be enjoyed, and it is for entertaining, and it is for real living. And so having an area or a proper plan in place for where people are going to put down their glassware, or they're going to put down their food, or they're going to grab food or whatever, I think is really important. So have those end tables, have that coffee table that's actually functioning, or if you have a fabric ottoman that's in the middle of the room, make sure that you have a plan, like a tray or something like that, for people to be able to use it effectively. This of course becomes especially important as we move into the winter holidays and we're going to be entertaining a lot more inside. Just make sure that you've thought through the space plan and you have an adequate area for people to enjoy themselves while they are tasting all of your wonderful food and drinks. Okay, that's it for me for today, you guys. I'm going to link you here to my how to choose a color palette video, because color theory is really important in the context of talking cozy, and I think you'll really enjoy that video. So I'm going to send you over there and I will see you all in that video. Thanks a lot. Bye.